Hey, what's going on, guys? Brandon with Taylorsfiresmoke Cooking. Today we're going to be making some delicious pork belly using my Chargriller Charcoal grill. We're going to smoke it up using my Chargriller Charcoal grill. This is the way I started smoking meat, using a regular grill, and I'm sure there are more people out there who just have equipment like this, and you can still produce excellent, top-notch food just using what you got. So stay tuned. This is going to be a good one. Be right back. All right, guys, so here I have my beautiful pork belly. I did purchase this from Costco, and I'm going to do is begin to cut it down into strips. I know there are many people when they make pork belly burn-ins or pork belly bites, they like to cube it prior to them cooking it, but I prefer just to cut it into strips. It makes it a little easier for me to manipulate this way, and then we'll break it down a little further once we're done cooking. All right, guys, so I have my pork belly cut into strips. I did take a portion of it and I went on and vacuum sealed it and froze it. We'll make some bacon out of that at a later date, but this is definitely enough for what we're going to need for me and my family with this particular cook. And you can see how beautiful the pork belly is. Has the right amount of fat to meat ratio, which is perfect. All right, so now we have our meat all cut up. Let's going to put it into a separate container here to go ahead and get it seasoned. We're going to be using some fajita seasoning, and we're also going to be using some honey chipotle coffee rub from a local coffee shop called Mina's Espresso Company. This is the first time I'm going to be using that, so I'm excited to see how it tastes. Also some coarse black pepper, and we're just going to put a little mustard on it as a binder. You don't necessarily need the mustard, but I do like using mustard from time to time as a binder. One, it helps with tenderization. Two, it's just a really good binder. You never really taste the salt. You never taste the mustard when you do use it. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some on and get it thoroughly mixed on all of my meat. Then what I want to do, I just want to kind of stack the meat into a nice layer. That way we can uniformly season it up. We're going to season it up nice and liberally on all the sides. That we can ensure that we have good flavor penetrating this pork belly. All right, so we're going to start off with our fajita seasoning. This is by Fiesta brand. You can find this at Academy Sports, or you can order it online, Amazon, or through the website themselves. And we're just going to put a nice layer on the pork belly. Now, personally, I'm one that likes my pork belly a little bit more on the savory side with just a hint of sweet. But you can kind of season it how you like. And then we're going to go pretty liberally with our honey chipotle seasoning. This tastes really, really good out of the bottle. You can taste that espresso in it, definitely a little bit of sweetness from the honey and definitely the chipotle with a little bit of a kick. So it should pair really well with this fajita seasoning that I'm using, and then the coarse black pepper as well. Now I like to go fairly heavy with the black pepper. This is where you can kind of go to your palate or to your desired way of doing your pepper, but I kind of like a nice peppery note on my pork belly. It's so fatty and so rich, it's good to kind of break it up with that pepper. Okay, guys, so I've got all my meat seasoned up. I've got my grill heating up right now. Again, we're just using a regular old barrel style charcoal grill. And you can see how I've got it set up. I've got my coals on one side. I'm using pecan wood or pecan chunks as my smoke source. And we just have our meat layered on the opposite side toward the exhaust vent. We're going to let it go. I'm not going to be concerned with what temperature's on the inside. I know this is going to be running roughly around 300 or so. And here's a good look at it. This is after about an hour and a half here. And you can see how it's picking up some really nice color. It's starting to set. The seasoning's starting to set on it. So we're doing really, really well. We're not going to do anything with it. Just continue to let it go. I added a little bit more coals in to keep that heat going, and we're just going to continue to let it ride. All right, guys, it's been another hour or so. I like to add about 10 to 12 more coals on top of what I already have when it's starting to look low to ensure that my temperature is staying where I want it. And you can see how good this pork belly is looking. The color's about where we want it, but we're going to let it go probably another 30 minutes or so, so we'll be at a total of 3 hours before we wrap. At this time, I did want to go ahead and start spritzing a little bit too. I don't want the outsides to dry out anything like that, so I'm just doing a little bit of a spritz. And again, we're going to be wrapping up real soon. All right, family, so now we're going to go ahead and cut them into bite-sized pieces. They were on the smoker cooking as they were for about 3 hours to 3.5 hours. And now I just want to go ahead on and cut them down into bite-sized pieces. This is where you can kind of cut them however you want. I like probably 1 inch to 1.5 inch chunks. But if you want to go a little smaller, you could do that as well. You can see it has a really nice smoke ring around it. The fat is rendering, but it's not where we want it yet. It's tender and it's edible, but it's not as tender as you want your pork belly bites to be. So we're just going to continue to cut them down. And then once I'm done cutting them down, I'll bring you guys back in for the next step. All right, guys, so we got them all broken down. Now we're going to go ahead and layer in some more flavor. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to add in some bacon fat. Now, if you don't have bacon fat, rendered bacon fat, you could definitely use butter or tallow, even if you had that. But we're going to use bacon fat. I'm going to season it with a little bit more of our honey chipotle espresso rub. And then we're going to put in just a little bit of brown sugar, probably a half a cup of brown sugar. Again, I like more of a savory note on my pork belly, but we do want to add a little bit of sweetness just to balance everything out. And it does make for a nice glaze at the end. Here's our bacon fat that we're going to use. Again, if you don't have bacon fat or you don't want to use bacon fat, you can use butter. But I figure why not put in what's coming out of the meat, put it right back in, and that's bacon fat. So it's going to add a really nice, more of a smoky note, and it's that a hint of bacon flavor that you don't know, may not get from smoking a raw piece of belly this way. And again, this is about a half of a cup of brown sugar, just to add a nice little hint of sweetness on the back end with and a little bit of a glaze. Really, really good flavor here though. So once we're done with this, all I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap this bad boy up in foil, and we're going to throw it right back out there on the grill and continue to let it go until we get this belly tender. All right. So it's been another hour and a half now. We have allowed our pork belly just to sit here kind of braising and getting tender here. Continually to keep those coals rolling, to keep this temperature up around 300 or so, give or take a few degrees. And you can see now our pork belly is starting to get nice and spongy. So it's getting to where we want it to be. All I'm going to do now, I'm going to get a spoon. I'm going to mix our belly around, get the bottom to the top and the ones that are on the top around to the bottom, to let everything incorporate into that little bit of sauce and glaze that we have at the bottom here. And I'm going to cook it for another 45 minutes or so uncovered until it's completely done, and we'll bring you guys back when it's time to plate up. All right, family, we're back. Our pork belly is completely done. I covered it and just let it rest for a little while. Total cook was about 6 hours. And let's take a good look at that. Meat candy right here. Nice and tender, smoky. You know, I don't like to sauce them. Some people like to sauce them and then cook them down a little bit. I just like to add that little bit of glaze that we made with our bacon fat, a little bit of brown sugar, and some extra seasoning. But I'll tell you, these things are money right now. And super tender. That fork just slides right through it. Take a look at that. So good. And just look at that. Look how tender it is. How it just pulls right apart. This here is perfect, guys. I'm going to go ahead and get a bite and see how it tastes with that Mina's Espresso Company coffee rub on there, honey chipotle. Oh yeah, that stuff is amazing. It went really, really well with this belly, and I highly recommend that you guys give this a try. I'll put the description link, the description or the link down in the description box. That way, if you want to order you some, you can try it out for yourself. But I hope you guys enjoyed the cook. Until the next time, God bless. We'll see you around.